So ever since Donald Trump came down the escalator, the Democrats, the media, they've been trying to find ways to destroy him. If you remember, it was in April of 2016, before Donald Trump even got the nomination. Politico ran a piece, from the experts on all the ways they could impeach Donald Trump. We have learned in hindsight, I think we knew that the crossfire hurricane Trump-Russia narrative was bogus, but that didn't matter. The FBI submitted a false dossier of allegations against Donald Trump to the FISA court to open a surveillance investigation campaign predicated on nothing. They impeached Donald Trump twice, also for bogus reasons. Now, with the evidence mounting that Joe Biden has put his office and his influence up for sale, Hakeem Jeffries says any impeachment of Joe Biden would be illegitimate.
They just continue to take orders from Donald Trump. Their puppet master in chief, who has directed them to persecute and to go after Joe Biden, which may take the form of an illegitimate impeachment inquiry.
Yeah, to even look into it's illegitimate. My first guest represents New York's 24th Congressional District, Representative Claudia Tenney. Thanks for coming back on the program.
Great to be on.
Okay, how could Hakeem Jeffries, who's part of your delegation from New York, sit there and say that as we listen to the testimony of Tony Bobolinsky and Devin Archer, we see the evidence on the laptop, we now know about the pseudonyms. How, as this mounts up, how can they say even looking into it is illegitimate?
Well, that's all they've got. They know this is a disaster and unfolding, and that Biden is probably going to have to be removed as their nominee. And they're going to be stuck with Kamala Harris because I don't see who else they could possibly replace her with. She's the vice president, and she's going to try to push for that position. But look, here's the other thing that's interesting there. You just talked about all the impeachments that we've done of Donald Trump when he was president. Now all of a sudden we have to bring criminal action against him. And yet Joe Biden, who sits there committing crimes in plain sight, whether it's bribery, money laundering through his son and his family. We're seeing that, the proof from Shokin, and it's not just Shokin. This documents are showing on the suspicious activity reports that were produced under Jamie Comer, who's the head of the oversight committee. All these things are coming forward. All started by the whistleblowers, by the way, from our Ways and Means Committee. That came forward because of the portal that we created so people could feel comfortable coming forward. All slow walk by the Department of Justice, dirty cop Merrick Garland. And now Hakeem Jeffries just has his kind of canned talking points. Sometimes they're in rhyme because they really have nothing else. They've got to figure a way to stop Trump any way they can. But understand something, while we're focused on all this, the Democrats are busy looking at process and spending close to $1 billion already from outside interests into not-for-profits to try to get ballot harvesting, vote trafficking, to win the ballots. Because right now it looks like whether it's Trump or any other Republican, they're going to be Joe Biden or Kamala Harris when it comes to 2024. And they cling to power and they will do anything because they are diabolical and they're shameless. And I'm from New York and I serve with Hakeem Jeffries in the state assembly. So I know that for a fact.
How can we look at these indictments of Donald Trump and take them seriously when, for example, the judge in the Southern District of Florida says, wait a second, the crimes alleged here, and you, the special prosecutor, special counsel, are using a grand jury in the District of Columbia to do this investigation. No, the grand jury here in my district is supposed to do it. Now you have the federal judge in D.C. who says, I don't care that the judge in Florida, whose case comes first, set her date. I'm going to leapfrog her because I want my case to go first. Just happens to be the day before Super Tuesday. We also have the judge in Fulton County admonishing the district attorney for using her office to raise money for one of the Democrat opponents of one of the Trump co-defendants, who's a Georgia state senator. We can see corruption and malfeasance at every level here.
Absolutely. This is not some happenstance coincidence. This is all organized. If there were a RICO statute that could apply to the Joe Biden's Justice Department and the coordination of the Democrats, whether they're in Fulton County, whether they're in Washington, D.C., whether they're in New York City with Alvin Bragg, they could actually, this is racketeering. If we had a statute that applied, It is what they call collusion, which is technically not a crime, but it's a conspiracy. Our government, our most powerful government in the federal side, whether it's DOJ, whether it's coordinating with all these local courts, they are coordinating to make sure that Donald Trump is not the nominee. And if he is the nominee, they want to make sure he loses. And that's exactly what they're doing.
When do Republicans accept the fact that lawfare has to be a two-way street? This is how it works. And look, it happens every time. The Democrats do something dirty, and then Republican leaders say, well, we don't want to be like them, and we want to, rise above this, and we want to take the high road. They're playing They're playing the dirtiest of dirty politics right now. And look, I don't like it, but if lawfare is going to be a one-way street, then Republicans are going to get steamrolled. So when do Republican leaders start to recognize this is lawfare, and they have to fight fire with fire, metaphorically speaking?
Right. No, I agree with you. And I will tell you this, the Democrats always engage in what you call lawfare. I have another term for it. It's actually a legal term. It's called malicious prosecution and abusive process. You can't sue or take anyone out or go in terms of legally. You can't do any of these things. This is malicious prosecution, coordination, trying to prosecute someone without having the intent, without having the crime in front of you. I think we should be going after all these prosecutors. Honestly, if we can get people in the state of Georgia, New York City, which is almost impossible, anywhere we can get statewide attorneys general, local DAs like the Democrats are, we need to engage in this. And I hate to call it lawfare because it's not legal, but it is what the Democrats do. And I like to just say what it is. It's malicious prosecution. It's abusive process. It's wrong. It's cheating. It could be criminal. These people should be removed from office for doing it. But, they're so brazen. And we've got to stand up and fight because unfortunately, the problem with the Republicans right now is that all we have is a slim 5-seat majority in the House. We have subpoena power. We have outlets like yours and others, media, but most of the media isn't even talking about any of this. And we also don't have anywhere we can go on the federal side. They're covering it up everywhere, whether it's the IRS whistleblowers, whether it's allowing Merrick Garland to appoint Attorney General Weiss down in Delaware, who's completely unqualified to be in this position. He's the one who brought up the phony charges and came up with the false plea deal, putting a gun charge in when there was never an indictment on a gun charge. I mean, they knew this was all proactively done to try to hedge the flow of what could potentially happen to Joe Biden. But now it's coming out in plain sight. Joe Biden needs to be impeached, ultimately prosecuted, and everyone knows it. I mean, everyone's saying, "Oh, Hunter, Hunter, Hunter," and if Hunter's guilty, then we'll hold Hunter accountable. Hunter is a tool of Joe Biden. I think it can't be any clearer than that.
I'm glad you're willing to use the I word because some people run the other way. But when we look at the Constitution, the nonsense of the Trump impeachments, treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. I mean, that was literally what the framers were afraid of, is that civil officers of the United States government could be bought by foreign powers. And in this case, it looks like as vice president and perhaps continuing to the presidency, Joe Biden has put his office for sale.